A seasoned night doorman starts noticing strange happenings at exactly 2:37 a.m., doors mysteriously ajar and flickering lights. But when he uncovers the chilling truth behind the building's secrets, he realizes that some mysteries are best left unsolved. Tom sat in the small security office, the soft hum of the monitors filling the silence. It was his usual night shift, and as always, the building was calm. The empty hallways on the screens reflected the stillness, interrupted only by the occasional flicker of a light. Tom had worked here for years and had grown used to the quiet, finding comfort in its predictability. He adjusted his chair, leaning back as his eyes scanned each camera feed. It was just another uneventful night. He knew his routine well: check the cameras, stay alert, and wait for morning. At exactly 2:37 a.m., Tom's eyes caught a subtle flicker on the screen. The hallway of the third floor briefly flashed before plunging into darkness. He leaned closer, watching the monitor, waiting for the lights to come back on. Just an electrical fault, he muttered to himself, recalling how these older buildings often had small issues like this. The rest of the cameras still displayed the usual stillness, nothing out of the ordinary. Tom made a mental note to report it in the morning. No rush, it was probably just a fuse. But still, something felt odd. Curiosity got the better of Tom. Grabbing his flashlight, he made his way to the elevator and headed up to the third floor. As the doors slid open, he was greeted by an unsettling darkness. Just like on the cameras, the entire hallway was pitch black. He flicked on the flashlight, the beam cutting through the shadows. What he saw next made him pause. Several apartment doors stood wide open. There were no signs of forced entry, no broken locks, no damage, just doors ajar, as if someone had casually left them that way. Tom shined his light into one of the open apartments. It was silent, too quiet. No movement, no sound, just emptiness. Something was definitely wrong. "Hello?" Tom called out, his voice echoing down the dark hallway. No response. The unsettling silence seemed to swallow his words. He cautiously stepped into one of the open apartments, shining his light around. Everything was in perfect order. Furniture untouched, personal belongings neatly arranged, yet there was no sign of life. It was as if the residents had simply disappeared into thin air. Moving from one apartment to the next, the eerie stillness persisted. Tom's gut twisted with unease. Something was wrong here, but nothing made sense. It was just empty. Too empty. He felt the weight of the silence pressing down. Back in the security room, Tom couldn't shake the unease. He rewound the footage from earlier that night, his pulse quickening as he searched for clues. But as he reviewed the recordings, something even more disturbing came to light. Night after night, at exactly 2:37 a.m., the same thing happened. The hallway lights on the third floor flickered out, and the apartment doors slowly creaked open, one after the other. No figures appeared on camera, no signs of movement, just the eerie, unexplained pattern. Tom's hands trembled as he clicked through each night. It had been happening for weeks. The deeper he looked, the more his nerves frayed. This was no glitch. Something wasn't right. As days turned into nights, Tom found himself haunted by the events of that fateful shift. Each passing hour felt heavier, and he couldn't bring himself to discuss what he had witnessed. He carried the weight of his secret, avoiding the third floor when the clock approached 2:37 a.m., his heart racing with every creak of the building. The eerie silence of the hallways gnawed at him, amplifying his anxiety. He observed the residents from a distance, wary of revealing his unease, fearing they might dismiss him as paranoid. The truth lingered just beneath the surface, unspoken and unsettling, as Tom grappled with the burden of his knowledge alone. Bill sat in the security booth, eyes glued to the flickering screens that displayed the building's empty hallways. The soft hum of the monitors created a soothing backdrop, and he found comfort in the stillness of the night. As a seasoned night shift guard, he was used to the tranquility, yet a nagging sensation crawled under his skin. Something felt different, almost electric, as if the silence was hiding an unspoken tension. He glanced at the clock, 2 a.m., still hours until the morning shift arrived. Just as he settled deeper into his chair, a sudden ding echoed through the building, shattering the quiet. Bill's heart raced as the crackling sound of the intercom filled the booth. He leaned closer to the speaker, listening intently. "Hello? Is anyone there?" he called out, but only silence responded. Then he heard it, a low, heavy breathing coming from the service elevator intercom. Unease settled in his stomach as he glanced at the camera feed. The elevator doors stood wide open, but the interior was empty, devoid of any presence. He glanced around the security booth, half expecting someone to appear. "This isn't funny," he muttered under his breath, trying to shake off the growing dread. With his heart pounding, Bill decided to investigate the unsettling call. He left the security booth and opted for the stairs, hoping to meet the service elevator at its next stop. As he climbed, a creeping sensation of being watched prickled at the back of his neck. Each floor he passed was eerily quiet, the silence amplifying his unease. He reached the second floor and paused, scanning the dimly lit corridor. Shadows danced along the walls, but there was no one in sight. Taking a deep breath, he continued upward, every creak of the stairs echoing in the stillness. The feeling of an unseen presence loomed over him, tightening his chest with each step he took. Finally, the elevator arrived at the top floor, a place normally off limits at this hour. As the doors slid open, Bill was met with a thick veil of darkness that swallowed the light from the corridor. A shiver ran down his spine as he stepped into the emptiness. The silence was deafening, interrupted only by the distant sound of faint footsteps echoing from deep within the hallway. His heart raced as he squinted into the shadows, straining to see what, or who, could be there. Bill hesitated, caught between the urge to flee and the instinct to uncover the source of the unsettling sounds that sent a chill coursing through him. Bill took a cautious step into the hallway, his voice echoing as he called out, "Hello? Is anyone there?" Silence engulfed him in response, thick and oppressive. Just as he decided it was time to retreat, the footsteps returned, now unmistakably closer, each echoing step sending a fresh wave of fear coursing through him. He peered into the darkness, desperately searching for any sign of life. But the shadows remained still. The atmosphere thickened with dread, and Bill's instincts screamed at him to flee. He turned sharply, retreating toward the elevator, the pounding of his heart drowning out the eerie sounds that lingered behind him. Bill hurried back to his station, his heart racing and his mind reeling from the encounter. He replayed the camera footage, searching for anything that could explain the footsteps or the unsettling call. But there was nothing, just the empty corridors and the quiet stillness of the building. As the hours ticked by, the intercom remained silent, yet an unease settled over him like a heavy blanket. He couldn't shake the feeling that something, or someone, had been there, lurking in the shadows, watching his every move. The night stretched on, each tick of the clock amplifying his growing paranoia. Jacob, the night doorman, had grown accustomed to the odd hours and the peculiar guests that came and went from the building. Most nights passed quietly, with only the soft hum of the city breaking the silence. However, a recent development disturbed his routine. A strange man in a black coat appeared almost every night around 3 a.m. The man's demeanor was unsettling. He spoke in hushed tones, his eyes darting around as if wary of being seen. Each time he asked for entry to apartment 1410, a unit that Jacob knew had been vacant for months. The strange part of it all was that apartment 1410 had been vacant for months, ever since its previous tenant had been found dead under mysterious circumstances. Jacob recalled the whispers among the residents, rumors of eerie happenings surrounding that unit. Despite the unsettling history, the man in the black coat continued to insist that he was expected. Each time Jacob politely declined his request, the visitor's eyes would darken, and his voice would drop to a whisper, urging Jacob to let him in. The persistence unnerved Jacob, who felt an inexplicable chill every time the man appeared, as if something sinister lingered in the air. Each time Jacob refuses, the man in the black coat offers a chilling smile that sends shivers down Jacob's spine before he walks away. After each encounter, Jacob notices the wet footprints left behind on the polished floor, stark against the otherwise clear night skies. It didn't rain, yet the footprints glistened as if they carried the remnants of a storm. The sight unsettles him further, intensifying his growing discomfort. Jacob finds the man's presence increasingly disturbing, but he struggles to find a logical explanation for it. Why was this man so drawn to a vacant apartment? And what could he possibly want there? The strange man continues to appear every night, unfailingly at 3 a.m., each time with the same request to enter apartment 1410. Jacob's unease intensifies with each encounter, the chilling smile becoming more unsettling. He dreads the clock ticking closer to 3 a.m., knowing that the visitor will come again, always asking for the same apartment. The routine becomes a twisted ritual, and Jacob starts to feel like a pawn in a game he doesn't understand. Each evening, he tries to prepare himself, but nothing eases his anxiety. The weight of the man's gaze lingers long after he leaves, making Jacob wonder if he will ever stop appearing, or what might happen if he ever lets him inside. Driven by his growing dread, Jacob begins to research the history of apartment 1410. He discovers strange coincidences surrounding the death of the former tenant, who was found in a mysterious state and whose life had been filled with unsettling events. As he delves deeper, a sense of unease washes over him, connecting the dots between the visitor and the tragedy. Each detail he uncovers feels like a piece of a dark puzzle, hinting that the man in the black coat might not be who he claims. With every revelation, Jacob's suspicions intensify, leaving him to wonder if the visitor is somehow tied to the lingering shadows of the apartment's past. One night, to Jacob's surprise, the man in the black coat doesn't appear, filling him with an odd sense of relief. However, as he checks the security cameras the next morning, his heart sinks. The visitor is captured standing in front of apartment 1410, motionless, as if waiting for something or someone. The unsettling image sends chills down Jacob's spine, and when he inspects the area, he finds the wet footprints still there, marking a silent reminder of the visitor's presence. The atmosphere thickens with dread, leaving Jacob haunted by the thought of what the man might be waiting for. Sam, a new night guard, starts his shift with a sense of unease. Every time he checks the basement door, it's unlocked, despite his constant efforts to keep it secure. Each time he approaches, he feels a strange cold draft seeping out from the stairwell below, sending chills down his spine. The faint sound of something shifting echoes from within, but he brushes it off as his imagination. He reminds himself that it's just an old building, yet an unsettling feeling lingers in the back of his mind, making him wonder what lies behind that door. One night, as Sam makes his rounds, he hears a low, guttural sound echoing from the basement. The noise sends a jolt of fear through him, but curiosity gets the better of his hesitation. With a deep breath, he approaches the basement door, finding it unlocked once more. Pushing it open, the strange sound grows louder, reverberating through the stairwell like a distant growl. Darkness envelops him as he peers down the dim staircase, the air thick with an unsettling chill. Sam's heart races as he steps forward, compelled by an inexplicable urge to uncover the source of the eerie noise lurking in the shadows. Despite his better judgment, Sam finds himself unable to resist the pull of the basement. Each night, as he checks the security monitors, the low, guttural sound beckons him closer, weaving its way into his thoughts. It seems to grow more pronounced, echoing with a menacing urgency that sets his nerves on edge. Sam's instincts scream at him to stay away, yet the sound feels alive, as if whatever is creating it is slowly ascending the stairs, inching toward him. He can almost sense a presence lurking just beyond the threshold,